This amazing project details the taking of these old post office package boxes from around the 1970s and then removing the brass drawer fronts, the red plates there, and then building a kitchen island with these drawer fronts as the focal point of the project. So, super challenging, very worthy of video documentation, in my opinion, because it requires a lot of backwards engineering. And that instead of cutting drawer fronts to fit the cabinet at the end of the project, I actually had to build the cabinet and the drawers around these decorative pieces. Now, additionally, the original boxes were made entirely of metal and just didn't have a whole lot of tolerance built in any dimension. So I had to have fully functional drawers with only about a 16th of an inch between the top and bottom of each brass plate, which is really challenging when you're working with a medium like wood, which can expand and shrink, and also trying to incorporate ball bearing drawer slides, which, if you've had any experience with those, they can be pretty temperamental. But first, let's have a word from our sponsor.
When you cut metal, are you still using a broom to sweep up the metal shavings? Introducing the new Metal Shavings Wand. The Metal Shavings Wand, revolutionary, patented, rare earth formula, miraculously picks up your metal shavings better than any broom ever could, leaving virtually no metal shavings behind and leaving your precious sawdust intact. Just watch. Once your metal shavings are picked up, simply push them off into the garbage can. Son of a... With no mess, no fuss, and no problem. Magic Metal Shavings Wand is created from rare earth materials, so you know that it's valuable and also very good for you. When done with the Metal Shavings Wand, simply attach it to non-destroyed metal for easy, simple storage. Metal Shavings Wand, picking up metal the way of the future.
The next step was to cut down the posts on these old scaffolding casters and then weld them to a piece of angle iron for added stability. The customer wanted these because they'll give a little bit of extra height to the overall project to make it kind of a bar height. Also, they're very big, easy to roll, and they're strong, which is going to be very important once the customer puts the granite countertop onto their island. Once the casters were installed, it was time to start building the cabinet, assembling everything together, the frame, and then building the shelves for the spice rack. The spice rack was also built to customer specifications because they use very specific size jars for their collection of cooking spices. With the basic structure of the island complete, I then turned my attention to building the drawers and then removing the brass plates from their original metal drawers. I tried all sorts of different ways to bust the rivets that held everything together, and finally in the end brute force won out. Once that was done, I then had to remove whatever hardware I could from the back side of the plates before building my drawer boxes.
Okay, so we have hit quite a snag here with the drawer boxes. Trying to make these drawers as wide as possible, what I ended up doing is making them too wide so that when my drawer fronts sat on it, there wasn't enough room between the edge of this and the edge of the drawer front for the drawer slide. The drawer slide was sticking out. It was creating all sorts of gap problems, and I noodled on it trying to figure out what can I do to make this right. And in the end, I just decided it's becoming a Frankenstein project. I just needed to scrap and start over again. Super disappointing, but that's the way it works, and hopefully the next set will go better. All right, so we've made the new drawers and we've used this sort of tongue and groove joint. It's not quite as desirable as maybe the box joints or certainly dovetails, but it's still a very good, strong joint. Still miles ahead of any standard builder grade doors. Now, the most complicated parts of these drawer boxes are the drawer fronts. As you can see, I had to route out these weird little patterns here to make room for the hardware on the backs of the original drawers, which I'm just not wanting to take off. Because if I remove that lock on the back, I remove the core here, and it's not as visually pleasing. Even more complicated than these is the drawer fronts we cut for the larger drawers, because we had to cut this pattern out, all these grooves to fit the grooves here that, as far as I know, were part of this drawer for structural integrity. It kind of provided some strength. You've got a brass plate that's about 20 pounds, maybe an eighth or a quarter inch thick. So when you have that spanning, you need to keep it from bowing. This is probably what this is for. You can see here, I kind of had to grind some of these down because if I left them at their full height, they would have come out the other side of the drawer. And then I would have had a different kind of structural problem because my drawer front would be in 6 or 7 pieces.
I couldn't have these plates falling off on the customer during daily use. So I finally had to drill holes through each plate so that I could bolt them to the boxes. This was after trying epoxy, construction adhesive, etc. In the end, I think it turned out pretty well. The final step in the construction of this project was to affix the face frames to the actual cabinet and then install the drawers. Once that was done, it was time to pull the drawers out and use a planer and so much sandpaper to get this thing ready to finish. And done. I'm sure it'll look much better once the countertop is installed, but there it is.